Well, Mama told me when I was young, said sit beside me.
Now, right here we are starting to get into the heart of the actual town of Pere Cheney. Down there was the intersection, but this is where the people actually lived. You had things like general stores, or a general store. You had a bar. You had the Cheney Hotel. Basically everything you needed to live here was here. But that didn't make things easy either. I'm not sure if this was the Dumfries residence or if this is where the general store was kept. You might sometimes see little holes right next to the bigger holes. This could have been a location of an outhouse, maybe, or something else. I'm not sure. I think an outhouse would probably be more. Just imagine 100 years ago that this whole entire open area was filled with small little cabins and shacks. Everything was made of wood. And kind of like Mayberry, you knew everybody's name. Who knows if they were a friendly bunch? They may have been. But I tell you that times were definitely rough living here. When people found out that they could not farm this land after every tree had been cut in the area, they didn't really have a chance to make a livelihood. And they didn't have things like unemployment back then. So people pretty much starved. And the worst thing about this town was the disease. Typhoid fever, yellow fever, diphtheria, can't pronounce that properly, but all these diseases would run through these towns, and basically there was really nothing you could do about it. One man I read about, he lost 3 or 4 of his kids all around Christmas time because the disease was so bad. There were no vaccinations. There was really no way to take care of when an outbreak happened. I'm not sure this is where the general store was. Or maybe the hotel. I will look back at my map and I will tell you. Now, this looks to be what remains of one of the northern streets that existed in this town. You can see sort of indents, you can see all sorts of physical features that show that a town used to be here, and not just the giant holes in the ground. And as you can tell, people leave their crud all around in here, which is sad. You know, Crawford County acknowledges that Pere Cheney's existence and its importance as a historical landmark, but really there's nothing here to show where the town used to be. There is a ghost town in Missaukee County called Stratford that actually has the locations of where everything used to be. Now I kind of wish Pere Cheney had this happen for them, but unfortunately I don't think Crawford County has the money to be able to do stuff like this. But I think this is one of the most important ghost towns in the state that needs to be preserved. Especially as all these holes are eroded away and basically everything sort of fades away. Here's some more holes in the ground. And one thing I find interesting is the trees that grow in the middle of them. And most interestingly, I tell you, one thing I notice about a lot of the ghost towns that I find, they also seem to have a lot of moss. Reindeer moss and your regular sphagnum moss, green moss. That seems to be pretty popular, as you can tell, maybe looking over here. This is reindeer moss, the blue stuff. And the green stuff is your more regular moss that everyone knows pretty darn well. Well, it's just an interesting note. Another thing I want to say, you can walk all over the open areas in the fields, but one thing I'd like to mention, please do not drive through the field. I know there are tire marks and it looks like maybe there are some small established trails, but there aren't. Please do not drive any motorized vehicles through those trails. People would pretty much appreciate it. And besides, it's very dangerous. With the holes, you don't know sometimes where you're driving, and you might have a bad accident and you're in the middle of nowhere. So please, do not drive in the fields.
Well, Mama told me when I was young, said sit beside me, my only son, and listen closely to what I say.